Hi everyone, welcome to the virtual tour in experimental psychology at Jesus College. My name is Nir Shalev. I am the lecturer in psychology in college, so I am responsible for the students who study psychology here as part of experimental psychology or combined with philosophy or linguistics. And I also teach here a little bit, things that are related to my field, which is cognition. So I teach everything that is related to memory, attention, perception, and some individual differences, a little bit of cognitive development. But this is only a fraction of the fields that we cover in this course. And you can learn a lot about the structure of the course if you go to the links provided by the Department of Experimental Psychology. So there's some sort of virtual open days that was created by the department, which provides some more formal information about the structure of the course, and also, very important to you probably, about the admission process, about the selection process, about the interviews. What we prepared for you here is more of an informal chat about psychology. So I invited students from year 1, 2, and 3 to discuss their topics and things they wish they would know before they start, and I hope you will find it helpful. I wish you all good luck, and I'm just gonna stop this video and we jump immediately to the other chat. So bye, good luck. Lottie will be first, first year student, Charlotte Maison, or if I mispronounce it, just correct me, Lottie.
Hi, I'm Lottie. I'm in first year. And one thing I wanted to mention is that I didn't study maths at A-level, and I was kind of scared for how stats would work out, but it's actually fine. Like, you don't need to have anything beyond GCSE. Like, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's something very good to emphasize. I mean, I'm sure that if you had math, it could have been helpful at the beginning, but at the same time, it is really not something that you must have. Yeah, it's a good input point. So what about year 2 students? Do you have present yourself, but also say something about math also if you want? Harriet, you want to be first? That you appear first on my screen.
Okay, I'm Harriet. Yeah, second year. I was going to say that I didn't do maths either, and I struggled quite a lot doing stats, but like this college were really good about helping me. I had some extra tubes and it's fine. So yeah, as Lottie said, no issues with that.
Ollie?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ollie. I'm also second year. I didn't really do maths in sixth form, so me and Harriet spent quite a lot of time going to Lucy for stats advice, basically. But the college were really good, and we had a really good kind of extra tutor to help us through with that, which really helped.
Lucy?
Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. So I'm actually from Shanghai, so my curriculum was a bit different. So I had a more diverse range of options that I could choose from. So I did stats and calculus back in high school, and also had like economics and computer science, all of that. So I guess for me, it was quite interesting coming to uni and then starting to really dive into one discipline. So that was actually quite a change for me. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Okay, and final year, Charlotte?
Hi, I'm Charlotte. Yeah, I'm in my last year. I did do maths, but I didn't do stats. So I just want to say, if you've done maths, if you haven't done stats, it doesn't help you out either way. You kind of just, pretty much everyone's kind of just finding their feet on that. And also I want to say that if you did do psychology, obviously you know what you're getting yourself into, but I feel like I've got to the end of the course and realised everything I thought I knew has just been kind of like shot down anyway. They're like, no, it's not like that. It's not that simple anyway. So as long as you find it vaguely interesting, you don't really need to have a very specific background, I don't think. I did do biology though, really quick, I want to say, which did come a bit in handy. It can get quite technical sometimes. That's all I can say.
Okay, thanks everyone for these perspectives. And we will start now traveling in time a little bit with year 1. Lottie represents year 1 here. And I think you can get, before this conversation, I recorded some sort of pre-video that explains a bit something more formal about the experimental psychology course. But if you could also just say from your perspective, Lottie, something about, first, what is a lecture? What is a tutorial? What is the role of a tutor? All these terminology that probably repeats itself here.
Yeah, so I was kind of confused at first about what the different things meant, but essentially in a lecture, there'll be a professor presenting a topic, usually with PowerPoint slides, and you kind of just sit in the lecture hall and take notes, and that will be generally with like the whole year. Whereas a tutorial, there's usually only about 2, 3, 4 people and a tutor, and I guess the format kind of varies tutor to tutor, but it's very active. Like you'll discuss maybe what you've learned in the lectures, or you might discuss the work you handed in, and it's kind of really friendly. It's just like having a chat. It's not intimidating like I thought it would be, and I think it really helps because like lectures can be a bit passive, but tutorials really help to like actually understand the material.
So could you add a word about the stage you're at? So prelims and FHS or something like that, because you're actually at the transition between 2 stages in your course, right?
Yeah, so I just finished prelims, and I guess the like structure of prelims will be explained in the other video, but it's basically just 3 introductory courses, and now so you have exams for prelims, but they don't actually count towards your like final degree. So I kind of got stressed about them, but you don't need to. It was really stupid. As long as you pass, you're fine. And now we've just started part 1, and we do 2 topics per term. So right now I'm doing social psychology and perception.
And what kind of topics did you cover in prelims then?
So
generally, I mean, obviously you can get information more formally, but yeah.
So we did intro to stats, which is sort of kind of the basics, working out like calculations by hand instead of just using a calculator. And I found that quite tricky at first because it's very different, but it's also nice to have the variety, because in intro to psych and neurophysiology, it's more essay based, whereas stats is like worksheets. So I found that nice to like break up the week. And in intro to psychology, you sort of cover some of the stuff. If you do psychology A level, some of it's in there, but it's a lot of new stuff as well. And neurophysiology, for me, it was all really new because I didn't do biology at A level. So again, I thought I'd find that really difficult, but it's okay once you get used to it. And yeah, it's really nice to have the variety in prelims.
Okay, thanks. So maybe just one more thing about what your typical day looks like for a year 1 student, especially in the first 2 terms during prelims.
So the workload isn't too bad. It took a bit of getting used to, but in a normal day, we might have like a couple lectures, but we don't have lectures every day. We have about 5 or 6 a week. And then we also have 3 tutes a week. So you might have a tute on a normal day. Then I might spend some time in the library. But there's also like plenty of time to do other things. There's definitely time to go out and to get involved in societies. So yeah, once you get used to it, once you get into a routine, the workload's fine.
Okay, thanks. I'm moving to Harriet, 2nd year student. Harriet, I had questions for you, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you're also in the transition point now between part 1 and part 2. So let's talk a little bit about part 1, what exactly it means and what changed in your routine in this transition from where Lottie is to where you're at now.
So once where Lottie was talking about, done your prelims, then you go into part 1. You don't get to choose what you study yet, but you get to choose what you study in part 2. So where we are at the moment, so we've just finished part 1. where we had set lectures and set tutors on certain topics, a little bit like prelims, but rather than introductory topics, they were like proper psychological topics, if you will. And then now that we've finished that, we're supposed to have done our exams on that year, but because of pandemic, we can't. We then got a choice of what options we choose for part 2. So then you could choose out of loads of different topics, labs, and sort of like lecture topics and stuff. And you could also choose whether to do a dissertation or not. So I think, yeah, so I'm the only one out of 3 of us who chose to do a dissertation. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. Rather than any lectures or contact hours, I'm doing my dissertation.
So that's actually something I can ask Ollie now about, more about research, because, okay, so there is a moment where we actually start doing things that are a bit more hands-on, and maybe that's something that people are interested in hearing about. So what is the hands-on experience, and how do you learn to do research rather than theory of psychology?
I mean, to be honest, we haven't really started looking at our proper research projects yet. But I know that from the kind of lab work that you do in part 1, you kind of learn to. I mean, it's all very artificial, but you learn to collect data yourself, and you kind of get an understanding of how to start analysing that data. And then at the end of every single one of those sort of lab workshops of like a few blocks of a few hours for 3 weeks, then you kind of have to put together this lab report. Which is kind of, you're kind of doing your own paper like you'd see in any academic journal, except it's small and everyone does the same data. But I mean, I think that's where you start to get the kind of initial basis for doing your own research.
Okay, and yeah, I guess this is something that people will learn about when they look at the course structure, but it also changes from year to year, and also no one knows when we're going to do lab testing again. But it means that, if I remember correctly, in part 1, you just have some sort of practical lab exercise assigned to every theoretical one. I mean, in theory, that's how it goes, yeah?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So, Lucy, what kind of options you can choose from when you finish part 1, and maybe say something about this transition, because you're now also, Harriet, Ollie, and Lucy are now moving from part 1 to part 2, where actually you can choose what to do to some extent, right?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I'll just speak from my own experience, because so basically for part 1, you're assigned 6 topics and you have to take those modules. And it's more like laying the foundation for psychology, and you get an understanding of the different areas in psychology. And when now basically we're transitioning into part 2, when we get to choose and pick which areas we're more interested in, and what modules we would like to take. So for part 2, we're at the beginning, we are basically provided with a list of the different modules that the different classes, we call it the advanced options, that we can choose from. And for me specifically, because I was really, for 3rd year, I had in mind that I wanted to first gain some programming skills and also sort of look into the more quantitative and computational side of psychology, which also ties into neurophysiology, etc. So I was looking at the modules that apply, that fit into that category more. So I could choose, they were like computational neuroscience, and then also so something also related to AI research, and also there are like different areas to choose from, because I know that Harry and Ollie, neither of us actually ended up doing the same module, I think. So there's really a wide range of things that we can choose from. And in terms of and also this can tie into your research project if you want. So the research project I'm doing is with, it's more also like more computational, and it's a really nice chance to sort of really take what you learn in a class and then start looking into like how to actually conduct research. It's very exciting.
Let me try and balance you a bit then. Harriet, why don't you say a few words about your research, current research interest or dissertation?
Yeah, so my research project is if I remember it correctly, the the effect of cues on the appreciation of unfamiliar music. So it's kind of how different cues in the environment and things that we're provided with influence our perception of music that we haven't heard before. So I'm basically going to be looking at sort of stories and visual cues that can influence the way people interpret songs and pieces of music. It's got a very complex design because there's loads of controls about what pieces of music there are, preferences for music. So it's getting very complicated. I have like nearly 200 participants, hopefully. But no, it's really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. I've had a Zoom call with my research project supervisor, who also seems like quite interested. He's sending me some papers and stuff. So yeah, it seems like it'll be good.
And Ollie, what are you going to do?
So basically, I was going to be doing something that was essentially looking at how children learn complex grammar, and whether sort of when the government introduced compulsory spelling and grammar lessons, whether that led to more complex grammar use. But I mean, I can't really do that because I can't do experiments with kids anymore, just because it's too complicated with the whole kind of pandemic thing. So I'm going to be doing something about adults' use of complex grammar. I don't quite know what yet, but it's something in that area.
Okay, that's a very nice sample. So we have an AI data computational research here, and we have perception and musical perception, I guess, and here we have linguistic research or psycholinguistic research. So this is a very nice sample, for example, of different directions people go, and that's also the perfect transition to Charlotte, who's the only person who actually, well, maybe except for me, who conducted research here. So actually, you had like a question that I was about to ask you, but why don't you start by saying something about your research? Because that could be an interesting addition here. You're on mute.
Sorry, I think I might have been coughing again or something. Yeah, I feel like mine's also a nice kind of shows how broad it can be, because I started and I thought it was kind of a face perception one. Well, it is. It was to do with basically how we see male and female faces, how we perceive sex like in a face, whether our brain does the same things to identify a male as it does a female. So it kind of, yeah, it seemed like kind of perception based, but then I got to it and I gained so much kind of AI programming skills. I did not expect any of it. Like this time last summer, she was like, oh, can you just kind of figure out how to do this then? And I was on these tutorials learning Python, and I came out the other end good, but it was, I feel like I've grown so much doing that and getting to have people in and doing kind of EEG testing, which is where you put kind of electrodes on people's brains and read their brain waves to see what's going on. If it differs for male and females, there was so much going on. So I'm sad that you all won't get to do kind of really hands-on things like that, because yeah, it took up, I would be in the labs like all afternoon just with different various people coming in, and it felt like it was my job. I felt like a PhD student or something. It was really good fun. It was probably definitely the highlight of my course. And now to come out the other end and I've just got a nice, concise document there just with all my work on it. And I look at it, I'm like, how did I do that? I have no idea. But yeah, they give you really good support the whole way through. I had a woman, a PhD student, and we got really close, and she was just always constantly there for when I was like, help, I don't know how to do this. So it is daunting, but they make sure you get through. Yeah, it was brilliant. I felt very professional. Yeah.
Good. I mean, this is also something that people are probably interested in hearing, that you gain some skills that are not necessarily psychology skills, right? So obviously, some people in this course decide to continue to more clinical research or clinical psychology, but also you finished now something with, for example, programming skills, right? Well, why don't you say something about what you feel about your skill set and where it can take you maybe?
Yeah. So I feel like from doing the whole course, there are obviously just very generic skill sets that you don't realize that have evolved over about 3 years, such as like coping with constant deadlines and like things like that, and really good time organization so that you always get things done. Things like communication skills. If like I had to present my work to a range of just professors that are all experts in this field, and that would seem unbelievably daunting, but you just kind of get through with it. And then just kind of thinking like creatively and critically, because as you say, I was kind of surprised by how, despite this seeming quite scientific, just nothing is straightforward in psychology at all, and it all gets very complex. So I start like just questioning things generally, and which is quite a good approach to life. But then there are really specific skills that I've gained, like I say, programming and stats. I thought when I was in first year, I was like, there is no way I can do this. And then I'm now writing up my own code. I don't recognize myself anymore. What else is there? Things like learning how to write more scholarly and more, I don't know, a bit more eloquent and concise. They're always ideal in the real world. And reading things and being very selective in how you know what's important and what isn't, and that will just save time wherever you go. There are so many, they're just some I can think off the top of my head, but yeah, I feel like I've grown so much. It's been very beneficial.
So do you have a plan to move to the real world now, or are you staying in academia right now?
You know what, before I started third year, I was not planning on staying in academia. I really enjoyed my course, but I didn't think it was for me. I don't know. I saw professors and PhD students, and I just couldn't really relate or see myself doing research. But after doing this project, when you really feel like you're working in a team with a lab and everyone's kind of bouncing ideas off each other, and I actually felt very fulfilled during it. So I am considering it more. I think I am going to do a master's after this. I've got a year out while I decide what to do it in. But until then I wasn't considering it, but now I am. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Let's do a final round now. I'm going to ask you, all of you, I guess, something you didn't know about psychology and only discovered after you started studying. I mean, you don't have to answer if you don't have an answer to that. And maybe also try to add something that you wish you knew before studying, before starting even the process of admission. So with these two questions, let's just start. Lottie?
One thing I didn't know was how broad psychology is. So A-level, there's just very specific topics. But I feel like here, even though I've only done first year, it's just like psychology just covers so much. And wait, what was the other question?
If there's something you wish you knew before that.
Oh,
before starting.
I wish I knew that tutors aren't scary, because I was really scared before my first tutorial. And then I realized that they're just lovely and they're there to help you. So
yeah, I can imagine that. Harriet, any more insights?
I didn't really know how sciencey it was going to be, but I love that aspect of it, like all the neuroscience and stuff. I think it's really interesting, because when I did it at GCSE and A-level, it was very much just learning some facts and recalling them rather than let's do some research. And kind of because of that, the thing I kind of wish I knew before I went in was like how there's quite a reliance on being able to use computers, like programming and stuff. Like you don't need to know how to program, but like using Excel and stuff like that, like to record data and do stats. There's quite a lot of computers involved, which I think would have been useful to know.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to know. Yes, I mean, I think in Oxford specifically, there's a very long-standing tradition of experimental psychology, and this is the name of this course in that sense, and it means something. It means that we are very oriented to evidence and facts and so on. So yeah, Oli.
I didn't know like how much we don't know, because actually everything we learn, they were kind of, every lecture sort of finishes with, we don't really actually know how this works yet. And there's actually kind of so much there to kind of discover, and like, especially in terms of kind of neuronal activity and the way that all links up, like a lot of it, you just really don't know. I think that's quite interesting, and I kind of didn't expect that.
Yeah, that's a nice insight, yeah.
And in terms of what I wish I knew, I kind of wish I knew that there was this kind of nice atmosphere about work at Oxford, which is that kind of everyone's in the same boat of having quite a lot, but kind of everyone's in it together, where you kind of have a day of work and everyone has a lot on, and then you can all like know that you completed a lot that day and go to the pub, whatever. And I think, you know, there's that idea that everyone's in the same boat, and I think that's quite helpful in terms of dealing with the workload.
Yeah, that's nice. Lucy?
I agree with Ollie in terms of like how much we don't know actually, because what I find, especially also comparing to my friends who go to uni in the States, our lectures mainly focus on the discussion and the sort of the process of discovery of knowledge. So like during one lecture, we'll have evidence supporting one side of the argument, and then the next half will be evidence that's against that argument. And towards the end, it's really up to us how to evaluate those evidence and then sort of reach to our own conclusion. And it's really an enlightening experience, because it really made me realize that a lot of things is not just black and white, and what we're really learning is the skill to sort of understand what we're studying and sort of how to really critically think about these things and try to move forward in terms of like discovering the human psyche. And in terms of what I wish I knew, I think, to be honest, when I came to Oxford with no expectation whatsoever, because it was not actually, I did not expect I would be coming to the UK at all. And it was, so I came here without knowing anything really about Oxford, and I must say that the process of discovery was a very pleasant journey, including like making friends, realizing that having experience with the lectures and tutorial systems, and then at first finding that the essays could be a bit too much, but then really when I got used to it, it just got way better. So I think there isn't really, I think the mentality is that like if it can't be bad basically, and if you're just ready and you look forward to this, I'm sure you'll make the most out of here. And yeah.
Okay, thanks. And Charlotte, the mature student?
Sounds so old. Not to elaborate a third time on that same point that Ollie and Lucy have just said, but I just want to say that I didn't expect how kind of creative you could be within this. Like, I'd been a tutorial and they'd like, okay, so we've got this bit of evidence and this, and like, this might be crazy, but who knows, maybe they link in like this really cool way. Like, we're not really sure, but we might go that way. And it just completely unbounded, which, yeah, like Lucy said, is really kind of enlightening. It's like, wow, I don't know, just felt very creative, which I didn't really expect. I thought it would be more like biology, where I'm like, this goes here, and yeah, basically. What was the second one? Something you would wish? Something I wish I'd known before I came, or that I utilised earlier on, is that you're in control of what you get out of your degree, which is to elaborate more. So I was like, it might have been the holiday vacation or something. I was just kind of at home struggling by, like probably stressing out to my mum, like, oh, there's too much, I can't do this. And she was like, you got all these people around you, like utilize it and make use of it. And then once I like made that breakthrough and just email a tutor, I was just kind of scared to do it at first. I don't know why. I didn't want them to think like I wasn't clever or I shouldn't have been there, because I thought it was like a sign of weakness. But then once you said that, I've just kept emailing all the time, then I understand it, or I didn't know how to write essays at first, so I didn't do any essay-based subjects. So then I started going to one of my friends who does humanities, and I was like, how do I write essays? And then he told me, and just kind of making use of everyone around you and realising kind of everyone's rooting for you. You just got to back yourself as well and just reach out a hand. And then that's just really empowering. In the run up to exams, I would just email people every day, like, please, can you help re-explain this again? And like, they're just all there to help you. But yeah, I definitely not suffered in silence, but I just didn't want people to know that I didn't get it at first, which doesn't benefit anyone, especially not me.
What a positive finish. Okay, so I think in terms of the discussion that I was thinking of, we're pretty much done. So thank you very much.